Yeah, definitely get out. I mean, I know sometimes, we get behind the screen and we got, just normal day-to-day stuff. But if you don't get out and get no experiences, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's even hard to inspire your audience. Like you gotta think when people you're helping your audience, right? As we're continuing to give knowledge and give value and give game, they're also looking to aspire to have what we have, right? Or do what we do. So try to do things sometimes that when you think about your audience and you think about, okay, this is where they want to be, how can I demonstrate and show more things like that? So folks could say, you know what? Yeah, like I want to be able to do that. That's why anytime I'm traveling or if I'm, even if I'm going to Atlanta to do a mastermind, that's why I'm always just showing it. It's not necessarily I'm kicking game the whole time. It's, you know what? Let me show me traveling. Let me show me on a plane. Let me show me, let me show my experiences. Let me show, when I go to Dubai, let me show this. Let me show me on the camels. Let me show me, diving in the world's deepest pool. Things like that will also inspire. So it's about education, but it's also about inspiration. And then when life goes wrong, as we know it will, in the progress you're making is hard to feel. Take a deep breath and remember this phrase: progress over perfection will save the day. And if you haven't already write that down, make sure you have that in your notes. Progress over perfection. That's our mantra. That's what we live by. That's what we focus on, right? So don't always think about the end goal. Always think about, sometimes you really need to think about next step. So first, I just want to say I'm really proud of all of us. Each and every day we learning, we growing, we making things happen. I'm hearing from the mentors that we're meeting. So we're meeting with our coaches. Continue to do that. That's the reason why I put them in place. But also make sure that you stay active inside of the group. But I'm proud of y'all because I'm hearing the progress, right? How else could we celebrate you if you're not presenting the progress, whether it's big or whether it's small? Everything doesn't have to be, I got a client, or, it can be, hey, you know what? I figured this out. I'm clear on my niche. I got back in the game. I wasn't consistent, or I fell off for a week, but I'm back. Those are wins, because a lot of times people will, they'll want to do this industry and then they'll fall off, or they'll feel so bad that they're not where they feel like they need to be, or maybe they feel like they're behind and they're looking at everybody else and it's like, oh man, I'm feeling bad, or life came in the way. But just keep going, keep making progress. If you fall off the camel, get back on the camel, right? And keep going, keep making progress, because that's the journey. You know what I mean? Life happens to all of us, but the thing is this: if every time life isn't the way you want it to be, you stop or you fall off, you'll never get to your destination, right? You want to be the type of person that's resilient. You want to be the type of person that, especially when it gets hard, you keep going. When it gets hard, that's not the time to stop. That's the time. That's I don't know what you believe in, God, Allah, whatever you believe in. Like, that's the time that for your creator, or you really like looking into your inner self, that's really you being tested. That's a test. And you're going to either pass or you're going to fail the test. If you stop, you already know what that is, right? But if you find a way to keep going, you find a way to pull through, you find a way to still make progress, you find a way to pull in the help or the resources, you're going to make that progress that you need to make. And you're going to get to where you need to get to. So make sure that we stay on that path, and we stay focused on that. All right, cool. So what we focused on today is the sales call mastery. And the reason why this is important is because obviously we're all in a space where at some point, you're going to have a conversation with your ideal client. At some point, you're going to be presenting, and you're going to be presenting what you have. And there's going to be an option that they're going to have in order to be able to enroll in your program. I really want us to break this down. So we've done similar sessions like this in the past. What's going to be different about how we're going to do these trainings, or this training, is that we're really going to take a deep dive, right? We're going to take a deep dive specifically into this process. So we're breaking up the sales process into 3 training calls. Right. So this is actually going to be part 1. All right. This is going to be part one where we're really going to go deep and we'll answer questions to make sure that because this is the thing. I want to make sure that you have a blueprint. I want to make sure that you have a template, but I don't want any of us to be robotic. You feel what I'm saying? Like the reason why I give y'all the templates, the reason why I give y'all the scripts and certain things I give you guys is because I want you to have a guide, but I don't want you to be a robot. So follow it, know where you're taking people, but make sure that you add your own swag or you add your own spin to it as well. All right. Because everybody is going to sound different. Everybody's not going to sound like me, like how, when I did it with Joe earlier, everybody's not going to sound like that. Right. But if you understand where you're supposed to go, you understand the certain questions you should be asking, then you could have a very authentic, real and genuine conversation, but you still know where you're taking people on the call. You know what I mean? So like, that's really what it comes down to. All right. So that's what we focus on. All right. So everybody write this down. Great questions give understanding. Great questions gives understanding. Great questions gives understanding. One of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was initially trying to do consultation calls or strategy calls with folks was feeling like I had to over talk and over explain. So because a lot of us may just be starting, or maybe you're in a place where it's just like, you kind of been doing this for a while, but you've been having a hard time generating sales. One of the biggest mistakes I made early on was feeling like I just had to keep talking. And part of it was insecurity because I'm like, well, I really need them to know that I know what I'm talking about. And for them to know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm thinking, for them to know what I'm talking about, that I'm smart and I'm an expert in this, I need to over explain. So I'm coaching, I'm explaining, I'm saying everything, right? Anybody ever been through that where you felt like you just been over explaining, over coaching the people on calls, right? Put me in the chat, right? Put me in the chat or raise your hand, right? Or give a virtual hand. So I think that's a lot of us. But as you continue to really understand how you conduct these calls, you realize it's not about you. It's not really even about you talking. It's not about you having to demonstrate how smart you are to the other person. It's more about you listening, carefully listening to really understand the person. I've had people who became clients literally because nobody ever listened to them before. They might have even been on calls with other programs, but nobody really understood where they were coming from. Nobody really listened to them. They felt like they were just trying to make a sale. They felt like they had dollar signs over their head. And it's refreshing to have somebody that you're speaking to, explaining, and you really feel like understands you. They're listening and they really feel like they understand you. That in itself gives expertise. That in itself gives credibility. So you get a lot of credibility and be an expert by just literally listening, because they know novices just want to talk over them and they just want to just say everything they got to say. And they just want to I just want you to listen and hear and know how much I know. Right. Even if you don't consciously think that, subconsciously, that's what's happening. The better the questions, the easier the objections. The better the questions, the easier the objections. The better the questions, the easier the objections. So when you ask great questions on your calls, and if I say anything that's insightful that you like too, so for some folks, if they miss it, go ahead and just drop that in the chat for me. When you ask great questions, what happens is you're getting a lot of data. Right. And we're going to go through it today. Like, you're going to be phenomenal. Like, you're going to have a certain part of your sales call ready today, like ready to go before the end of this call. Those questions give you a lot of information. And that information that you get as you're asking your potential client, it does two things. It does one, it allows them to really sit in and feel it helps them feel the challenge that they're facing, and it helps them feel how real it is to solve it. It helps them feel the challenge that they're facing and how real it is to solve it. Because sometimes we go through problems, but we don't really feel it. If we don't really feel the problem that we have or a challenge, then you ever had something that was like a problem or a challenge, and like day one, it was like bothering you, but as time went on, it was just like you kind of like forgot about it, or it was just like it hasn't became as important to you? Anybody ever felt like that? Right? So it's human nature. It's human nature that when we bring, but it's like almost like slapping a scab. It's like, oh, I forgot I had that. Anybody ever had a cut or injury and you forgot about it, but as soon as you remembered it, you started feeling the injury again? Anybody ever had that? It's the same thing. It's the same thing when you're having calls with people. So, but they really have to feel it. So part of asking great questions is when you ask it to them, they feel that sense of urgency. But the second part of it is when you ask great questions and you get those responses back, you can use those responses as a way to motivate and or encourage people through objections. People ask me like, Coach T, like, how do I overcome objections? Really? I don't want to say I don't see it as overcoming objections, but really when it comes to objections, how I really look at it is I really just remind the person of what the things that they said. That's literally the best way to overcome objections. Because what happens is when you, and then we'll talk more about this throughout one of the series that we'll do, right? But when you overcome objections, you realize that people are telling you everything very openly, right? The challenges, what they need help with, et cetera, what they want, but what's important to them. But as soon as it gets to time for them to make the investment, what happens? I don't have the money. I don't have the time. This is not, let me wait to the new year. Let me wait to Christmas. Let me wait to this, right? So there's a lot of objections there. But guess what? All of the things that they told you, that doesn't mean that that's null and void. They told you everything that they need. Their warns, why this is so important, why they need to leave their job, why they want to save their marriage or their relationship, why they're tired of this, and why they telling you everything. Why they have to make a change now, why they can't go another day like this, right? They're giving you really, when you ask good questions, and that's what today is about, because I'm gonna share with you how to really ask great questions so you can get very potent answers. And those answers are going to be great, not just for their own psychology, but you can help gently remind them of the things that they said was important to them when they come up against the fear. Because really, most of the time, objections are just fear, especially if the person has some type of income to invest. If they're not willing to invest, it is fear. So how do you help somebody overcome fear? Is help them get back into their place of power by reminding them of the things that they're trying to move away from and move towards.